What is up, all my favorite people of the internet? My name is the Mighty Mudcrab, and today I'm going to be reviewing the alphabet. Now, this idea came from me from one of my beautiful and probably sentient subscribers, and how I'm going to go about doing this is I'm going to go in alphabetical order through the alphabet, and I'm going to be giving each letter a letter grade, like in school. Gonna go from A, B, C, D, and then F, letter grades. And I'm gonna give some reasoning as to why each letter got the grade it did. Starting off with the letter A, and I'm gonna be reviewing the uppercase and lowercase forms. A is, well, it's a triangle, right? The capital A. It looks a bit like this, with a thing in the middle. And the triangle is the strongest shape in all of nature. Triangle is also my favorite shape. And if you turn the capital A on its side, it looks like an alligator. Once again, appealing to the letter A's strength, an alligator is a very strong animal. Uh, but the lowercase form of the letter really drags it down by a little bit. I really don't like the look of it. It's, what is it, like? It's like a circle with like a thing on it. You know what I'm saying? But its overall grade, I feel, is an A. A gets an A. Now we move on to the letter B. Now, the letter B, the capital is unique among the letters because, well, it's a straight line with two things on it, like two semicircles bulging off of it. Not many other letters have something like that going on. But a big gripe I have with the letter B is, again, it's lowercase, and this will be a common theme throughout this video. The lowercase of letters are really bad. It's really lazy, and I'll show you what I mean. This is the letter B. Now, well, the lowercase b. But if you turn it around, what's that? You get a Q. You flip it, right, and you get a P. Or, even after a sex change, it can be the letter D. And because of all of those factors that I've listed, I've decided to give the letter B a B. Alright, after B, some of you might know, it's the letter C. Now, my real name is Chris. Believe it or not, my real name is not the Mighty Mudcrab. That's just an alias I go by. So I'm a little bit partial to the letter C. It used to be my favorite letter for a long time until the letter A took it over. But yeah, it looks like this. And you know what a lowercase c looks like? It's lazy. They just took the big one and made it a small one. But and for that reason, there's also no structure to it. It's just like a semicircle. And for that reason, I can't give it any higher than a C plus, and it probably got a plus because, like I said, I'm biased towards the letter. Moving on from C, we have the letter D. Now, the letter D, it's a little better than B. But it's uninspired. It's like they took what B was going for with the semicircle sticking off of it, and they're like, what's better than two semicircles? One big semicircle. And once I done demonstrated, the lowercase form of D is part of this. It's the same symbol for three other lowercase letters. So for that reason, I'm gonna have to give the letter D. We're gonna give it a B plus because, like I said, it's a little better than B, I think. Unless I just contradicted myself. After D is E. And the uppercase form of the letter E is like this. And then there's three, what would you call this? Horizontal things sticking off of it, Uh, it's like I said, it's big and sturdy. And, well, the lowercase form of E looks kind of like this. And that reminds me of Microsoft Edge. And, Who doesn't love a good edging? So that means the letter E will get an A. Now, after E is F. Now, a lot of you guys are probably familiar with the letter F. It it usually has a negative connotation, and I think it gets a bad rap because of that. F means you failed. It means you didn't do good, you didn't succeed, you're terrible. You could have tried harder, you could have done better. But that's not fair to the letter. I think the letter is still good. It has a nice shape. It's like the letter E, but instead of there's not one on the bottom, there's one on the top, and then the middle one is just a wee bit shorter than the top one. And of course, the lowercase f is probably the best lowercase letter in the English lexicon, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's fancy looking. It's like a candy cane almost, with like a little wavy line goes through it. It just looks cool. It's fancy. It's nice. F gets an A plus. The first A plus on the list goes to the letter F. Now after F, we're moving on to the letter G. Now the letter G looks like this. Something like this. Yeah, that's about what uppercase G looks like. Capital has a nice curve with a powerful equilibrium being the line that goes through the curve. But I do have to deduct points for the lowercase g. Now the lowercase g, it's like this. It's like a backwards E almost, but the tail on it goes below the line. Whoever thought to make letters go above or below their respective whatever line they're being written on, I don't even know what they were smoking, right? Because when you're trying to write something and you come across where the tail of one letter from the line above extends into the line below, it just creates a jarbled mess. And I'm getting angry just thinking about it. I gotta calm down. But anyway, G gets a B minus. H is the letter H is nice. The capital form is like this, but it's like imagine between my hands in the center there is a horizontal line going between them, right? It kind of reminds me of a football goalpost, or even if you played like one of the older Mario games, I think it was Super Mario World, I could be wrong, like the checkpoint looks like the letter H. And even the lowercase form of this letter is proud. It's like this. Oh, these are my notes right here. I'm just reading off of notes. It's like this with, it looks kind of like this with a proud straight line reaching right up to the stars, showing off how H, has infinite possibilities and infinite potential. For those reasons, H gets an A minus. Now we move on to potentially the only letter in the alphabet that can contend with the letter A, and that's the letter I. Now, what's cool about the letter I is that the capital form of the letter I looks like a steel beam, and nothing is more powerful than a steel beam. It's sturdy, it stands there, it's just symmetrical, it's made out of straight lines. What's not to like? And even more, the lowercase form is incredible because it's a line with a floating dot over it. The letter I is so powerful that even in its weakened lowercase state, it can defy gravity. Think about that. But yeah, I gets an A plus. Moving on from I, we go to J, and both J's, like the uppercase. Hold on. The uppercase looks like this, and then the lowercase, the line up here transmorphs into a floating orb, putting J in the same kind of power level as I. And both look like fish hooks, and I'm not a big fisherman myself, but I know a lot of people really enjoy fishing, so I imagine the letter J kind of hits home for a lot of individuals. For those reasons, I have to give the letter J a B, because it would have been an A, but I don't like fishing, so it goes down to a B. Now the letter K. Now the letter K is a lot like the letter C. I believe it makes a similar sound, but where the letter C is a weird little curved half circle, the letter K is a proud, strong thing. It's like this. It's both of these. Imagine both my hands right now. That's what the letter K looks like. The lowercase k, like I said, it follows from the same laziness of it just being a smaller version of the capital. But the only bad thing I have to say about K is that if you put 3 of them together, you're going to have a bad time. That's a bad thing. So that being said, I have to give it an A-. It would get an A or potentially an A+, but like I said, you know, it can lead to potentially some bad things. The letter L, I'm going to go ahead and tell you the letter L took an L because it gets an F. You know why it gets an F? I'll tell you. It's lazy. Lowercase looks like the letter I. It literally copied the letter I, except it didn't have any of the powers to make the dot. And like, look at what an L looks like. It looks like it was trying to stand up by itself, but got tired and just fell over. So L gets an F. Moving on to M. My last name starts with an M. And what an M looks like is, imagine 2 of these side by side. And a lowercase m is like this, but instead of a rigid peak, it's more flaccid. So, for those reasons, I believe the letter M deserves an A+. Moving on to the letter N. The letter N is just, it's plagiarism. It obviously copied off the letter M, but it didn't even have the strength or the mental fortitude to finish the entire letter. Also, the lowercase version of N looks like the lowercase version of the letter H, but it's just been circumcised, right? So for those reasons, the letter N gets a D+. It doesn't quite fail, but it's not really average either. Next up is the letter O. I don't like the letter O. You know why? I'll tell you why. The letter O. I mean, it's a 360-degree circle for the most part, which, I mean, it gets some points because, I mean, 360 degrees is infinite possibilities. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things you can do with that particular number and that particular shape. But it's hard to draw, and like I said, it suffers from the lazy lowercase problem. For those reasons, O gets a B. Just the B. The letter P. The letter P gets an F. You know why? Because it's worse than the capital B. Because like I said, it just copied. Where a capital B is like 2 of these semicircles. The P is just 1. This is what a P looks like. And like, oh yeah, and the lowercase, not only is it lazy and it's just a smaller version of the big P, it goes below the line. So not only is it a cheater, not only is it lazy, it has the audacity to go below the line. And like I said, it gets a well-deserved F. Q, I hate the letter Q. Q is... it's needy, it's lazy, and it won't do any work on its own. When's the last time you've seen the letter Q paired up with anything, like, by itself? No, it's not even used for that many words, and the words it is used for, it has to be paired up with the letter U. U's the real heavy lifter here, right? I mean, no, it gets none of the credit. See, the capital Q looks really cool. It's one of the coolest looking letters in the alphabet. It's like a circle, right? But there's like a thing going through it. You do have my permission to Google these letters after the video if you want more clarification. But yeah, for those reasons, and and yeah, I just looked at my notes. The lowercase q goes below the line. So not only is it lazy, not only does it not do any of the heavy lifting, the lowercase, it's the laziness. Remember, it looks like a lowercase b, d, and g. It goes below the line. Like, it's terrible. Q gets a D minus. The only thing that saves it from getting an F is, like I said, the capital Q is one of the coolest looking letters. Moving on to the letter R. The uppercase version of the letter R is robust and well designed. See, R, it's an artist. It's seen what the capital B was doing, right? But instead, it decided to take its own direction. It took what it was doing and put its own fresh spin on it, right? Because instead of being two bulbous semicircles hanging off a straight backboard, instead of having a second semicircle down here, it extends out. So it's sturdy. It has a kickstand, right? The only problem with the letter R is, again, it's capital. Or, I'm sorry, it's lowercase letter. It's a little lacking. It looks like this. It's like a candy cane or something. It's like someone just went, that's R, whatever. We're going home. It's lunchtime. R overall gets an A minus. S, I decided to give the letter S. Well, actually, I'll talk about it first. I'll tell you the letter right after. So an S looks like this. It's a curvy kind of line, and it's unique. Not really any other letter does something like that. But again, it suffers from the lazy lowercase problem of it just being a smaller version of the bigger one, right? S gets a D. After S is T. T is really funny because if you don't know, one of the funniest things ever is when someone T-poses, right? And that's what a capital T is. It's literally an eternal T-pose. It's standing on one strong leg, and then it has, the arms outstretched on top, with a lowercase being this. This is like a lowercase t. It's like a younger version of T. It has the horizontal line, but it hasn't quite grown up all the way to reach the top. For those reasons, I believe T deserves a C+. Now, after T, we move on to U. U is a fun letter. If you don't know, U looks like this, an uppercase U. And sometimes there's a little tail hanging off of it. And it's a fun letter to write. You have your pencil. Hold on. So you have your pencil, right? And it just, woo! You see that? Look how much fun I just had drawing that. It's a great time. But yeah, it suffers from the lazy lowercase problem, but I kind of give it a pass because, like I said, the letter is fun to draw. U gets a B. And that's actually a common theme with the last letters of the alphabet. It's like they just got tired of making up new symbols, and they're just like, just make them smaller. But we'll cover each individual letter when we get to it. U gets a B if I didn't already say. We're moving on to V. V, if you watch my, me reviewing my favorite numbers, you'll know that V is like Roman or Greek or whatever for 5. And as we all know, great things happen in 5. I'm actually playing the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim right now. I came in here to do this video. It's not quite as fun as U to draw, but I mean, all those pros that are working for it, I believe V deserves a B+. Moving on to W. W gets an A+ for Wumbo and Wumbology. It's like you took the letter M, right? And you just, rotated it for Wumbology. Moving on to the letter X. The letter X is probably used less. It's probably the only letter in the alphabet used less than the letter Q. But when it is used, it carries itself. It doesn't fall behind. No one else has to pick up X's slack. as far as I know. I'm not an exologist. Oh, and looking at my notes, is also my favorite position, I guess. I don't know what you'd call it. It's my favorite symbol in tic-tac-toe. If you don't know, X's go first, and if you go first in tic-tac-toe, you can't lose if you know how to play the game. You can draw, but drawing isn't losing. For all those reasons, it's a C. It's an all-rounder. It's okay. It's average. Moving on to the letter Y. Why should you care about the letter Y? Well, it's the only letter, I believe, that is only sometimes a vowel. If you don't know, the vowel group is A, E, I, O, and U, and occasionally the letter Y, such as in the word Y. The Y in Y would be a vowel. Why is Y in Y a vowel? Well, I didn't do very good in English classes, so I couldn't tell you why Y is a vowel in Y. But it suffers from the same repeated issue. They had so many chances to learn their lesson, but they did not. It extends. An uppercase Y is like a V. My hand and arm look like an uppercase Y right now. You know what I'm saying? Kinda. It's like a V on a pedestal. But the lowercase y is like a U. Well, you remember how that U had that little tail? Well, no, it has a huge tail that extends below the line. Why is this such a common issue? It really shouldn't be. They should let me redesign the alphabet. And perhaps I could do that idea sometime in the far future. I'll redesign the entire alphabet, maybe. Subscribe and stay tuned for that. I'm sure it will happen. But yeah, originally I had Y marked as an F, but I thought about it. I thought about its uniqueness in the English alphabet, so I decided to raise its grade to a D pass. It gets the pass, but barely. It gets a 60. Moving on to the letter Z. Now the letter Z looks like this. You have one line, then kind of another one like this, and then it rests on a platform. Z is the last letter of the alphabet, and it's just a cool and fun design. It's like, you know, you can do it real fast. If you had a pen, if you had some pencil and some paper, you could just crank out Z's all day. You know what I'm saying? Just like I said, and these lowercase Z is a bit smaller, but whatever. Z gets an A minus. With that being said, those are the letter grades of the alphabet. I believe that nobody can disagree with my list. Well, I mean, you could disagree, but I believe I thought about it for a good 30 minutes during my lunch break at work the other day. With that being said, I would very much appreciate it if you liked the video, subscribed, and even left a comment telling me if you agree with my list, disagree with my list, if you have a favorite letter, have a least favorite letter, and tell me why. With that being said, my name is the Mighty Mud Crab, and that's all the yapping I'm doing for the day.